تفضل. نقدر نبدأ؟ بليز.
تفضلي يا
سوري. دكتور أمنية تفضلي.
Hi, dear panelists and dear guests. Today we have gathered to our online webinar about social media and the role of social media for entrepreneurs. We welcome our esteemed panel, and we welcome Dr. Yousrey Elsharkawi, the head of the EABA, Egyptian African Businessmen Association in Egypt, located in Egypt, but it works in all Africa. And today our speakers are from various countries from Africa, from Egypt, Uganda, from South Africa. And we aim to cover the topic of social media for the whole continent. Dr. Yousrey?
Thank you very much, Engineer Omnia, Head of Entrepreneurs Committee in EABA Association. I think we have a translators and we have a translators, and we can use interpretation to listen to the translation. في البداية بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Please all attendants or all attendants, speakers and attendants, you have to use the interpretation option in Zoom to exactly use another language. Then we have continuously, simultaneously translation. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أهلا وسهلا بكم في مستهل هذا اللقاء الهام اللي بيهم ريادة الأعمال في القارة الأفريقية. في البداية اليوم تحديدا يوم هام جدا في مناسبتين مهمين جدا. يعني اليوم العالمي لريادة الأعمال، وأيضا مصر اليوم تترأس وتتسلم قمة القميصة 21 دول شرق وجنوب أفريقيا. والحديث عن ريادة الأعمال في دول شرق وجنوب أفريقيا وجزء من شمال أفريقيا شيء يهم جدا كل القارة الأفريقية. النهاردة يمكن أنا سعيد كجمعية رجال أعمال مصريين الأفارقة، وسعيد بوجود المتحدثين، وبرحب بكل المتحدثين من القارة الأفريقية ومن جنوب أفريقيا تحديدا ومن جمهورية مصر العربية ومن بعض الدول الأفريقية علشان نتكلم ونناقش ونعنصر بعض النقاط الهامة جدا حول أهمية وتأثير السوشيال ميديا في مشروعات ريادة الأعمال ومشروعات الصغيرة والمتناهيات الصغر. ربما تحديدا أنا يعني بيهمني جدا هذا الجانب كإحدى منظمات الأعمال والمجتمع المدني في قارة أفريقيا أن نركز على هذا المفهوم. يمكن في تنوع في المتحدثين النهاردة، في خبراء في الفرانشايز وخبراء في التسويق وفي خبراء في التصنيع وفي ناس كتير جدا من المتعاملين وأصحاب الخبرات. أنا بشكر كل المتحدثين، وربما أدعوكم جميعا في كل بقاع القارة الأفريقية اللي بيشاهدونا وبيسمعونا، وحتى يمكن احنا حريصين احنا نخاطب كل فئات المجتمع الأفريقي عشان نتواجد في القارة الأفريقية بشكل فاعل، وهذا هو التواجد الحقيقي على الأرض. نشكر كل السادة الحضور، وإن شاء الله أتمنى أن يكون يوم جيد، وأتمنى أن نخرج بالمقترحات وبالتوصيات الهامة والمناقشات الثرية. خلوني قبل ما أختم أقدم الشكر الجزيل للمهندسة أمنية البحراوي رئيس لجنة ريادة الأعمال في جمعية رجال الأعمال المصريين الأفارقة، التي يعني تقدم دائما الجديد وتبذل الجهد الوفير من أجل أن نصل بالورشة العمل أو المؤتمر أو السيمينار والبينار، لقاءات، زيارات، مذكرات تفاهم، كله اللي يخدم هذا القطاع الحيوي. نحن نثق تماما ونتأكد تماما أنه لا يمكن أن نحقق نتائج جيدة على الأرض في الجانب الأفريقي فيما يتعلق بالاقتصاد وفيما يتعلق بالفرص التجارية أو فيما يتعلق بالاستثمار، دونما النظر إلى فتح آفاق أمام رواد الأعمال وفتح آفاق أمام أصحاب المشروعات الصغيرة ومتناهية الصغر. كيف يمكن أن نوظف السوشيال ميديا؟ كيف يمكن أن نوظف الدعاية وأنواع الدعاية المختلفة؟ كيف يمكن أن نوظف التواصل الاجتماعي أيضا من أجل تبادل الخبرات؟ وهذا جزء مهم جدا. ربما اتفاقية التجارة البينية الحرة، وربما القميصة، وربما اتفاقية الإيكواس، كل اتفاقيات القارة فيها تبادل خبرات، وتحديدا التجارة البينية فيها تبادل خبرات. لكن أحد أهم وسائل تبادل الخبرات هي وتبادل المعرفة هي وسائل الاتصال والتواصل الاجتماعي. كيف نرى هذا التأثير وكيف نخرج بتوصيات هامة يستفيد منها كل رواد الأعمال، هذا ما سوف نستعرضه اليوم. أتمنى للجميع، للمستمعين، للمتحدثين، لكل المستفيدين والمتابعين على كل صفحاتنا وعلى كل المنصات الجماعية الاستفادة من هذا اليوم. شكرا لكم جزيلا من مصر، من أرض تستضيف اليوم القميصة وكل توصيات القميصة. ربما هناك توصية هامة جاءت في كلمة السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي وهو يتسلم اليوم قمة القميصة الدورة 21 القادمة، تحدث عن تواصل مجتمع الأعمال. واحد من أهم المحاور في رؤية مصر التي قدمت النهاردة، كيف يمكن أن يكون هناك تواصل فاعل لمجتمع الأعمال الإفريقي حتى نحقق ما نصبو إليه. أتمنى لكم يوم جيد ومناقشات جيدة سرية ومحاضرات جيدة وعروض تقديمية قوية وتوصيات تستحق كل التقدير والاحترام في نهاية هذا اللقاء. شكرا لكم جزيلا.
Thank you, Dr. Yousrey, for your words. As an introduction for the online webinar today, we just want to say that now social media platforms help businesses market their products and services while helping entrepreneurs communicate to the world. Entrepreneurs using social media also create a marketing network when their own loyal customers share their social media posts with other users. Social media for business is no longer optional. It's an essential way to reach your customers, to gain valuable insights and grow your brand. In this conference, we aim to analyze different channels of social media and their various impact on businesses. Allow me to introduce our first esteemed speaker from Egypt, Ms.Nagla Akl. Ms.Nagla is the founder of YouGo Guide. She's the founder of Alanet for social media marketing and the marketing consultant since 1999. She's the vice president of Egyptian Junior Business Association, Alexandria. She's the former advertising and media advisor to the governor of Alexandria. She's a certified consultant from European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and member of Goldman Sachs Program for Businesswomen. She's the CEO Benefit Agency for Marketing Consultants and Fortune Magazine Most Powerful Women in Business List 2018. She's the board member of Digital Commerce Division of the Alexandria Chamber of Commerce and the founder of YouGo for Franchise Initiative and the board member of the Egyptian Junior Business Association. So a big list for a very important speaker. Thank you, Nagla. Can you start?
Thank you, Omnia. Good evening, everybody, and it's an honor for me to join Africa today. It's the first time for me, and I'm very excited to be in contact with colleagues from Africa, and I would like to thank ElBahrawy for this. Dr. Yousrey, of course, thank you for the kind invitation. And my dear colleague Omnia, thank you also. We're both from Alexandria, so we're kind of biased. So yes, let me start by saying that this question is kind of a bit late, but it's better late than never. So is COVID or COVID-19 a chance or a challenge for entrepreneurs? Let me start with a few points because I know I only have like 10 to 12 minutes, so I have to be on time. I first of all recommend agility and pivoting of the business model. Agility is being flexible. You have to be very flexible in hard times. This is going to help your business a lot. Also, the pivoting, turning or being able to turn to different business model is very crucial at this time. So you have to prepare and study for agility and business model pivoting at any time. Secondly, I recommend innovation. You have to be really innovative at these times. You have to think out of the box. And of course, given that our mixing this with agility is also going to make you very fast and very agile in moving your business, and this will help you sustain and succeed during these times. Of course, this is an opportunity to say that you have to build on our capacity as a continent. So building an internal African e-commerce kitchen is very crucial. So what I recommend doing is that we start networking through ELBA and such organizations. All these associations will help us to network through these hard times, which is something that has been proven very successful since the beginning of COVID-19 and which is the mergers and acquisitions. People are partnering up, companies are partnering up. We're seeing big car companies in Europe merging together. This is the time where if you want to sustain and become stronger and actually have this opportunity during these rough times, it's time to partner and there is a very good opportunity through ELBA and such association. Another point is that now everything is online, so anything can be done online. So again, building on the capacity of the online, everybody's turning online or have turned online already. This is a very big opportunity for us as entrepreneurs to start pivoting our business models to serving this online, growing online community. Of course, one of the things that is a very good example on pivoting is that a lot of people are becoming more and more home oriented. They're staying home much more time. Therefore, some companies started doing the bigger portion strategy, which is to manufacture and produce bigger quantities and sell them in a promotional package. And this is one model of pivoting. I don't know if we can share my presentation on the screen. This would be very helpful. But the host is disabling my screen sharing. So can Maha please share my my presentation?
Sure. Maha, can you please share the presentation of Ms. Nagla?
Sure. 1 minute.
So Nagla, you were saying that now the chance for acquisitions and merging between companies. Sorry? You said that now is the big chance for acquisitions and merging between companies in order to work through the epidemic?
Yes, not exclusively mergers and acquisitions, but partnering up. Like, for example, if I got a network with a colleague here in South Africa that is also working in social media, for example, or social media marketing, we can always have this partnership announced, and this will broaden the scope that we're working in, and therefore sustaining our clients. This is just a small example of what I'm saying. So yes, please go and aim for partnerships. Of course, if you can get into a merger or get a bigger company to purchase your company and buy it, this is very good at this time. It will make you much more stronger.
Yeah, thank you. I think they just shared your presentation.
Yes, it's on and off, I think. Maha, are you still having trouble? Yes.
You can start.
No, please, that's the other one. Can I please have the other one, please? The role of social media. So, yes, thank you. So, second slide, please. There is a saying that I would like to start with, that is, according to history, many accomplished entrepreneurial ventures have started during difficult times. So this is what I want to have this in mind during this presentation. Maha, this is not the right presentation. Please close it. This is not the right presentation. Just please close it. I'm sorry. Please close this. Thank you. I don't want the presentation anymore. So according to history, many accomplished entrepreneurial ventures have started during difficult times. But again, this is only proved by being, as I said, agile, by being innovative, by being flexible, to be on different business models according to what's happening on the world situation. Yes, I was saying that we have to build an internal African e-commerce kitchen. I'm sorry, but the presentation is not working, so I have to read from my papers. It may be a little bit confusing. What I meant by this is that if you want to have a successful e-commerce platform, what you need is a kitchen of logistics, how you deliver the product to the client is very crucial. How you code and decode the product, which product to sell on your e-commerce. Okay, so what I'm saying is now might be a very good time in order to build an internal African supply chain, because as we can see, and this you can see also in the challenge, that the world is suffering from the supply chain management, and also the demand is higher than the supply. Therefore, we can start our own inter-supply chain management, and this is going to be a very good opportunity for us on the business side. Some business categories, of course, during the pandemic have thrived. And this would give us lessons that if you are on the right side of agility, you can actually be very successful and fast. Some of these businesses are home entertainment, hospitals, medical equipment, suppliers, e-commerce retailers, of course, the courier pickups, the delivery services, and the sanitary products. So again, if we can cater on this and maybe build our own inter-African management of supply chain, this is a very good opportunity and a very good time to do this. One of the challenges that we have, though, is that if we're speaking about Africa, each country has a favorite or a popular platform. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge if you are working on different parallel platforms of social media. And of course, there was a chart that I got on my presentation, but Maha keeps popping the wrong presentation. It's the social media penetration in Africa in 2021 by region. The Western Africa is 16%, Eastern Africa 10%, Central Africa 8%, Southern Africa 41%, Northern Africa 45%. So this is a very big chance that this is a growing market. It's a very good opportunity because only 11% of the African community are efficient internet users. Therefore, we're talking about 85% of the population still as a potential client. This is very good and this is very crucial. What we have now in front of us is the social media in Africa. This is a slide to show you that we have a challenge about different platforms. 94% use Facebook. This was good news for me because this is my favorite platform. 69% is YouTube. So as we are going to see in the next presentation in an hour, videos are the next big thing, or is already the next big thing in marketing. 46% is Google, the SEOs and all this. 37% is LinkedIn, especially in the B2B. So I recommend this if you are also marketing business to business strategy. And 23% other platforms. Of course, there are different softwares where you can actually synchronize all your social media posts across all these platforms. But again, it's not easy. There is software to help you, but it's not easy. So I consider it one of the challenges to market digitally. My final point about the challenges is that, of course, we're not the only people doing this worldwide. Therefore, it is very busy with ads nowadays. It's becoming very expensive, and it's kind of being very challenging to capture the attention of the user. Therefore, we need to be extra attractive, going the extra mile, being out of the box in order to catch the attention of our users. This is just a brief, as I said, about the challenges and the opportunities. I don't want to go further than these points for today. It's just a 10-minute presentation. And if anybody has a question, I don't know, Omnia, if you are going to, if you have the questions at the very end of the presentation. Thank you. You are muted, Omnia. You're muted.
Sorry. I said no, we are going to sample all the questions and answer them at the end of the webinar. Okay. Now we're going to talk about a very interesting point, namely the trending tools of social media in different African countries, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc. And how can one decide which channel of them to use? Our speaker will be Ms. Janet Maloka from South Africa. Allow me to introduce Ms. Janet.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Omnia. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hi, Ms. Janet. Can you give me 1 second to just introduce you to the attendees? Ms. Janet.
Okay, not a problem.
Thank you. Ms. Janet Maloka is the social media content curator at the CNBC Africa and owner of ElMedia. She is a social media manager with an interest in the ever-changing digital landscape. For over 9 years, she has been helping businesses to find and nurture their tone of voice through social media, along with their extensive agency experience. Thank you, Ms. Janet. Can you please present your point?
Thank you. Okay. According to the Tony Blair Institute for Change, Facebook is the most visited website in Africa. As of December 2020, there were more than 233 million Facebook subscribers in Africa. By the end of 2020, Nigeria was the country in West Africa with the largest number of Facebook subscribers. About 31.6 million users in Nigeria had Facebook accounts. Ghana followed with almost 8 million subscribers, said a report done by Statista.com. Facebook upholds its position as the most popular social media platform in South Africa with an estimated 27 million local users. 18 million of those users are exclusively on mobile. However, despite having the largest base, messaging platforms, WhatsApp, and video platform YouTube are the most used, said a report by Worldwide Works. According to the Global Web Index 2020 Social Media User Trends Report, it stated the following countries are the highest percentage of WhatsApp users. Kenya sitting at 97%, South Africa sitting at 96%, Nigeria sitting at 95%. For years, messaging apps like WhatsApp have been growing as an attractive, cheaper alternative in countries where SMS messaging is expensive. Additionally, as the world becomes more globalized, WhatsApp and other messaging platforms provide an easy and cheap way to stay connected with friends and relatives abroad. In South Africa, Instagram saw its active users climb from 4.3 million to 7.1 million, giving it an estimated install base of 10 million people. Its popularity surged along with the launch of Reels, a TikTok clone. TikTok, meanwhile, is the fastest growing platform in the country, jumping from 5 million to 9 million users over the last year. Its growth has been driven by the younger demographics, but more people in the 25 to 44 age groups joined during lockdown. So my final remarks are that, you need to go where your audience is. As the previous panelist had spoken that, social media is different on different platforms, is different in different countries. Sometimes it's more popular on WhatsApp, sometimes it's popular on Facebook, but you need to find where exactly your audience will be and make sure that you're able to find them on those platforms. So for instance, if your audience is using WhatsApp more than any other platform, then you need to find ways to start creating chatbots that make it easier for you to connect with your audience. If your audience is on Facebook, now is the time to create the kind of content where you're able to reach out to them, engage with them, and make sure that you're creating a platform that allows them, or a space or community that allows them to find you and want to be a part of your community and want to use your products. I want to stress again that you don't have to be on every single social media platform. Many companies make the mistake of thinking that they need to be on every single platform. So like, for instance, in South Africa, a lot of the platforms that we use are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you'll find them on all of those social media platforms, but sometimes it's irrelevant because perhaps the audience is not there. So for instance, you don't have to use Instagram if you are a business that, for instance, is an insurance business. How do you create beautiful pictures? Because that is what Instagram is about. Instagram is about aesthetically pleasing photographic images, really creative landscapes, really creative ways of doing stuff. So how do you create an Instagram page for an insurance company? You don't have to be there, because I'm pretty sure your audience will be perhaps on Facebook or Twitter, depending on what the majority says is the demographic in your country. The other thing is YouTube. YouTube doesn't, just because YouTube is a popular platform in your country, doesn't mean that you have to be there, because I know that obviously in African countries, we don't have the luxury of having these really expensive phones that have amazing cameras, or the ability to buy these amazing equipment to use to create and record and the kind of content that most people watch. It's okay not to be there. The other thing is you need to learn to engage with your audience. You need to learn how best to talk to them. You need to learn what kind of tone of voice your brand actually has, what it is that makes them tick, what it is that excites them. The other thing is that as an entrepreneur, social media is imperative to the growth of your business. COVID has shown us that you cannot at all think that you will survive without being on social media. It has shown us that we have to be on social media, and you need to have your presence there. The misconception as well is that all you need to do is post and go. Unfortunately, you can't just post and go. Just because you have social media presence, it doesn't mean that your social media presence means anything. You have to actively create posts and engage and create content that is really important, and that will drive the kind of engagement and drive the kind of audience that you're looking for, so that they can lean into the kind of whether it's a service or product that you're trying to sell. They need to be able to come and feel like it's home for them. Another thing is social media. We only have a 2-second social media attention span. So you can imagine when you're scrolling through your Facebook or you're scrolling through your Instagram, Twitter, you're bombarded by so much information, so many ads, so many posts, that you need to find a way to break free from the noise and make sure that your brand, your product, your business service, whatever it is that you're doing on social media as an entrepreneur, is able to stand out through the noise. So that is why it's imperative to create the kind of content that helps you stand out. And if you're unable to do that, please make sure that you contact people that can help you. So there are many social media content creators, you know, everywhere. If you do not have the time to actively look and do your own research. You need to always stay top of mind. Again, like I said, that because we only have a 2-second social media attention span, you need to stay top of mind. You need to always be seeming like you're doing more than what your competitors are doing. You're going above and beyond. The other thing is that many entrepreneurs and many businesses neglect customer experience. You know, and outside of customer experience, they also neglect responding to comments on their social media pages. You cannot now neglect social media engagement, because that's the way people are able to come back. You know, when somebody has experienced your service in such a way that it's amazing to them, even if they don't become, even if it doesn't translate into a sale, you at least know that those people are loyal to your brand and will eventually, when they are ready, become a customer. Sometimes, like I said, your social media presence does not give you a return on engagement, which is also okay. Create a community that has your back, that has you constantly engaging and constantly wanting to know what's happening, constantly following your pages, whether or not they are physically going in store and buying your product or actually using your service. It's okay if they don't, but at least you know that they're thinking about you. And even if they're thinking about you, it means that they might recommend you to somebody else in their circle. So constantly have that at top of mind, and that's why social media is so imperative, and you do not, again, have to be on every single platform.
Thank you, Ms. Janet, for the very, very informative session, and for answering our point in such a very informative way. I'm sure that what you said about the content writing and for choosing the right platforms and contacting the right audience is very important, because actually a lot of entrepreneurs that we face every day don't know which social media channel they should tackle, and they want to be everywhere, and they don't focus on the platform that is extremely suitable for them. So thank you very much for the very informative talk. Thank you. And now we are going to have a very important point also that we have to cover. Mr. Truman is going to talk to us about the most important 20 benefits of social media for entrepreneurs. Mr. Truman Hadebe from South Africa. Allow me to introduce you, please. Mr. Truman is an entrepreneur, business coach, and mentor, certified supply chain procurement and logistics professional, a business leader who is passionate about contributing towards the ultimate goal of seeing African SMEs growing to their boundless potential and eventually taking a lead in the African economy and beyond. He holds a BCom degree in supply chain management and corporate finance, and he's a professional license NQF level 8 from CIPS UK. He currently is working on his Master of Business Leadership MBL and has an all-rounded industry experience in supply chain, mainly within procurement. Mr. Truman, can you please start?
Masa al-Khairi. A very good afternoon to everyone. And thank you for the kind introduction, Omnia. We seem to be having a delayed feedback, so I'm not sure if you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we hear you clearly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So given the time to share just a little bit in terms of the benefits of social media, the 22 benefits to be exact. I know we're only supposed to cover 20, so we'll see if we are able to cover the last 2. So if I may ask someone to fly the presentation for me, because I'm not able to share my screen.
Actually, you should be able to share it because we made that everyone can share his content. Yes.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So, all right. I think, thank you. So essentially my points, some of the points have been covered already. So I'm just going to go straight into the nitty-gritties. So Janet and the other colleague, Nagla, I think they've sort of covered some of the things. So the first screen that you can see, I'm sure some of you might be familiar with most of these social media platforms, but really in essence, I think it has been covered in terms of which ones and how do you go about deciding which platforms to use. So I'm not going to spend much time on that. I'm just going to go straight into the session for today. But maybe just to highlight a quote by Stacy. So she says that social media for business is no longer an option. So I think we can all agree, given the presentations that have also been shared by the other panelists, that it is indeed an essential way to reach out to customers, gain valuable insights, and grow your brand. And there's also something that I would like to share, if time allows, in terms of social media management and reporting tools. So there's Hootsuite, there's Linktree, which can also help you to manage all this social media platform. One of the panelists did mention that it could be such a daunting task, to manage all these social media platforms. So these are some of the tools that you can use. Of course, there's plenty other platforms that we can talk about, but currently, and in terms of my experience, these are the tools that I'm using together with my team at the Supply Chain Academy, right? So moving right along, just at a high level in terms of the digital world of business. So currently with the advent of COVID-19, what we've seen is that we are in a borderless world of business. All businesses, regardless of size, are able to now, do business, reach out to customers that they would otherwise not be able to reach out to had it not been for COVID-19 or, these digital platforms that we've seen helping a lot of businesses establish themselves and reaching out to international markets. So what does that mean? So some of the benefits, really, I think the previous panelists have already spoken to this. So I'm just gonna, at a high level, in terms of the world population, we're looking at 7.8 billion. These are the statistics as of January 2021. So half of the world population is on the internet, right? So looking at the numbers that you can see on your screen, I will happily share the presentation as well for those that are interested to take a deeper dive into these statistics. So again, looking at these statistics, we can all see that if you're not leveraging on social media and the digital marketing strategy that you might have in place, if you do have one, if it doesn't really address these platforms, then you are really missing out on a lot of things, in terms of the kind of information, the kind of results that you can actually reap when it comes to using social media. So just at high level, again, I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritties, but just in terms of the mobile users, we see that over 66.6% of the world population is on mobile phones. In terms of internet usage, the users there, we're looking at 4.6 billion of the world's population, which is 59.5%. And then overall, or specifically talking to social media users. So in terms of the statistics there, we see as of January 2021, again, we're looking at 4.2 billion in terms of the usage, which then translates to 53.6% overall. Now, why does this become important? Again, zooming in now into Africa specifically, we see on average in terms of the growth year on year, starting from 2017, we've seen 20% of internet users that would come into the space using internet. But now again, specifically when it comes to social media, on average, we're looking at plus 12% year on year. So you can work out the averages yourself, and 4% of that would be the mobile connections, and the active social media users, that would be 15% on average per year, which also translates to about 23 million users. Now, why does this matter? What does it really mean for African businesses and entrepreneurs in 2021? You can do your math, looking at these figures in terms of what that really means for your environment, for your region, for your business specifically. So I think I'm just going to skip this. Some of the colleagues have already covered this part, but more specifically now, let's zoom in terms of regions. So looking at North Africa, we see that in terms of statistics, we are sitting at about 45%. So that will include Egypt and other, Northern African countries. So that is the kind of, social media penetration in Africa in 2021, specifically by region, right? So I've included the sources of that data for those that might be interested in diving into more details when it comes to that. So we see that followed by Southern Africa, so sitting at 41%, West Africa at 16%, Eastern Africa at 10%, and Central Africa at 8%. Right. So now let's talk about the benefits. So I've sort of summarized the benefits into 7 categories. So we're going to look at the branding related benefits. So in terms of branding or building your brand as a business, social media would help to increase brand awareness, to humanize your brand, establish your brand as a thought leader in that particular space, and to stay on top of mind of your customers. The other category would be the broad benefits associated with social media. These would include things like, increasing your web traffic. If you've got a website, this could also be not necessarily a website. It could be your online store, those that are in the e-commerce space. If, for whatever reason, you're not using a website, then you'll be able to draw and drive a lot of traffic and draw insights in terms of who is exactly visiting your website or your e-commerce platform. You'll be able to then generate leads based on that, boost sales. You can, run ads and also partner with influencers. I think there's a dedicated topic for that. So I'm just gonna skip and go straight into the next category, which is content creation and distribution benefits. Here we've got 3 benefits that are very important. So in terms of promoting your content and, to make your company or your page to trend or to go viral, these are the benefits that social media would also give you. Depending, of course, on the type of social media platform that you are using, you will then be able to structure something that will help you achieve these goals in terms of your digital marketing strategy. And then again, we look at the communication side of things. So here, in terms of the benefits, there's about 4: reputation management. So we've seen again a lot of things that get that would normally go viral and get into the social media spaces that would otherwise not be possible had it not been for social media. It could be good and bad things, but talking about reputation management, to be able, again, to do damage control, crisis management, you'll be able to, have a good customer and audience engagement using your social media platforms, customer service and customer support for new and existing clients. You'll be able to also communicate with them and to them as to what it is that you are working on, how best you can support them to make sure that they are happy. Because guess what? There's a saying that goes that your customer is king. and not cash is king. So if you focus on your customer and you make sure that you serve your customer, you treat them as kings and queens, then you will be able to generate leads, to be able to drive more impact, to be able to translate that into the bottom line, objective, which would be your profit. And then just, before I wrap up, and then the benefits for gaining insights. Here we're looking at, learning more about your customers, gauging sentiments around your brand, keeping an eye on, the competition, if that's what you want to achieve, staying on top of the industry news, benefits on social media for advertising. Just before my last point here, we can talk about targeted advertising, retargeting. Of course, these are just, benefits at high level. Then you can drill down to the specifics. I've shared the source again there for those that might need more information on that. And in terms of the benefits for proving your return on investment, ROI, or what is also called your social uplift, depending on what it is exactly that you're trying to achieve. So that would be the 20-second benefit when it comes to social media. So now I'm just gonna leave it at that. There is a video that I would have loved to share with everybody, but due to time constraints, I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. And hopefully we keep the interaction going for those that might have questions around anything that I've covered in this presentation. I'll be happy to answer your questions through the Q&A at the end. But also these are the details that you can use after the webinar if you need any further details to support your business, to learn more, and to find out exactly in terms of the type of strategies that you can employ to establish, if you are fairly new in business, or to grow your existing business to that level where you will be able to then, satisfy your customers and make a meaningful impact in business and growing the entrepreneurship, ecosystem within the continent, and as a result, creating more employment opportunities for our youth and those that are already experienced in various fields. So with that being said, Omnia, I'm not sure in terms of time left. I had to sort of compress that just to make sure that, I've covered pretty much everything that you've asked me to. But just lastly, this is just, an overview in terms of some of the things that you can actually do using the social media platforms. This is called Linktree. So it helps you, instead of, posting or using a link for each and every platform, you can have one link that sort of covers all your social media platforms. So imagine sharing a link with a client that would give them access to these platforms. Then they can decide whether they want to go to your website, or they want to WhatsApp you, they want to go to your TikTok, YouTube link. This is an example from Isebanda Young Professionals Empowerment, which is one of the organizations that I'm part of that is currently helping unemployed graduates to assist SMMEs and also connecting SMMEs and corporates with unemployed young professionals working on various projects to grow their businesses, working on digital transformation tools and things like that. So I hope that was of value to you and to everyone that might be interested on growing their businesses using social media.
Thank you, Truman, for your wonderful presentation and for being very generous with us. We asked for 20 benefits and you gave us 22. So thank you for your generosity. Now we're going to be back to Ms.Nagla Akl, and she's going to answer a very important question as a marketeer. Is social media going to replace the traditional marketing tools, or can we consider the social media as one of these tools? Ms. Nagla?
Hi, Engineer Omnia. Can you please, Maha, can you please help me share the?
We enabled that everyone can share his presentation. so that you can be very flexible at moving your slides.
Okay. So everyone can see the slide
Yes.
now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Let's start. So for 2022, it seems that old school marketing will be the new. This is the trend of the coming year. Most of the tools that have been used through the years since they invented marketing in the 1920s is going to be back, but to be used in the new way. Let me give you an example of how this is going to be done. The latest marketing trend would be, number one, brand accountability. So brands should always work on being reliable with their customer. Social media enables us to have the voice of the customer, and therefore, as brands, we need to have this responsibility of getting this voice quite heard. If we promise, if the brand promises something to the customer, the promise has to be delivered. Of course, if the over-delivered is the better, the merrier. Two, the multi-channel influencer marketing. Of course, we all know that social media has this influencer community. Again, influencer marketing it is a big thing. It's going to be a bigger thing in 2022. Of course, it's hard to keep up with all the influencers in different areas. However, you have to choose very wisely the brand ambassador that is going to represent you, even if he doesn't have millions of followers, even if it's only a 25,000 follower, but they are dedicated to him. This is the go-to influencer for your business. Three, the video content. Of course, the content is king, like my colleagues were saying. So again, we have to work on our video content very carefully with big attention to details. It's an opportunity for us if we need to show all aspects and features of our product. For the hyper automation, of course, the chatbots, the customer service, the CRMs, all these have to be taken into consideration. Five, the data-driven marketing. Of course, data analytics and all these tools are very important for leading us to doing the best decisions within our marketing budget. Somebody was asking about the internet privacy and data security. I've seen this in the chat. It's very good. It's a very good question. But what I guarantee you is that if you're working with Facebook, for example, or Instagram, or any of the big platforms, they already provide a very good privacy and security systems. However, they are breached sometimes, and therefore you need to have a very solid password, for example, so that nobody will access them easily. And of course, giving the admin rights to people these people have to be chosen very carefully. And in case of Facebook, for example, there are different roles. So if you are using an agency that is going to represent your business, this admin has to be an editor and not a full admin, because he can ruin or deny you access to your own business pages. 7, the rise of remote working culture. Of course, again, this is old news. A lot of people are working from home. So therefore, the products tailored to accommodate these people. Also, the time to promote ads for these people have changed, and we have to put this into consideration. 8, the future of events is hybrid. This is news also for IABA Association, that now people are going for the more flexible events. that can give you access physically and online. The user-generated content is the new word of mouth. Again, people believe people. Now they don't believe the ads so much. So we have to get users that have already tried our product to get them to influence other people through social media. This is very credible. And finally, the e-commerce keeps growing. That is a fact of life. So if you don't have a strong online presence for your business, you have to start now. This is the social media penetration across Africa in 2021 by region. You can see that North Africa, like Egypt, is 45% of the African users. That's a huge market. Central Africa, 8%. Eastern Africa, 10%. Western Africa, 16%. And Southern Africa, 41%. From this graph, we can learn two things. First of all, that this is a very good potential market. There are growing customers every day on this continent. So if you are growing a business, this is a very good opportunity for you. And if you are working across different e-commerce and digital marketing platforms, this is a very good tip for you if you are tailoring your marketing to a certain area or region within Africa. So if I'm going to conclude by a traditional versus social media marketing tool. The traditional would be that it's only a one-way communication. And this is less trouble and less headache for businesses, but it's not as effective. If you put on a TV ad, it will be very nice because you have constructed the message. You are deliberately putting out the message. However, there is no interaction from the customer. So again, the social media is very interactive, and it's a very good opportunity for you to learn about your customer behavior and how their feedback about your product, and therefore be agile and lean to change them according to the taste of your customers in a fast pace. The traditional media is also more generic. It talks about not the specifics of the business because we don't have the time to give the message in a video ad or whatever. So it's very generic. And it's not specific to a certain segment of people. It might be like liable to a certain segment of people. However, it's still generic. The social media can be very culture specific. You can specify each message in a post to a different segment of people, and it's really people centric. It's all about the customer. It's all about customizing your message to each segment that you are talking to. The traditional marketing is all about creativity. It could be an ad for Mercedes, for example, where you don't see Mercedes except at the very end of the ad. However, in the social media, it's a very short span of attention, and therefore you have to be very targeting the message, narrow it down, be much more direct to get to the people that you want to get to. Traditional marketing, of course, needs much bigger budget. The social media considerably is much lower budget. However, like we just said, it's more about getting testimonials from your own customers. It's more about your own effort, handling complaints, being there for your customer most of the time. In the traditional marketing, the reach is the key. How many people you're reaching is the key in the traditional marketing. It's the only KPI of success for your advert. However, in the social media, you have different things. You have the chatbots, like my colleague was saying, so you can answer your clients. You have the hybrid chatbots where you can have a customer service person also chat with your customer, and you can have the systematic one. And of course, the website is the key because this is your formal ID with your clients. You can also SEO marketing or search engine optimization marketing, and this is going to give you a much better reach online Of course, we have the podcast marketing, be like a radio in the traditional, now it's podcast. It's very trending in the 2022. It has been trending since the pandemic, but now it's the listening phase have heightened up to 45% of the people listening to the podcast, 45% of the listeners on the internet. Of course, we have the influencer marketing. This is also a tool that can be used in the social media versus, of course, traditional media. You would only use people who are like actors or superstars, and they are very expensive. So eventually we can say that the traditional marketing is all about the integrated marketing campaign. You can use all this within the social media campaign also as an integrated marketing campaign. So it's the bigger picture, all right? The social media is very native advertising. It's very, like I said, it's digitally chattered into different platforms, small platforms, and therefore you need to customize your messages. You need to do much more effort. However, it's very credible also with people. So this is an overview about traditional and social media. However, like I said in the beginning, I think the traditional marketing is going to be the new using the social media as a tool, of course. Thank you, Omnia.
Thank you, Nagla, for the very, very informative presentation. Actually, I didn't think, me as Omnia, I didn't think that traditional marketing is going to come back, but you gave me another, point of view. Thank you, dear. Now, as you know, everything has a pro and cons. Nothing is totally full of advantages and without any disadvantages. And now Ms. Patricia Kahill is going to, from Uganda, is going to talk to us about the pros and cons of the social media in the time of the pandemic that we're living now. Allow me to introduce Ms. Patricia Kahill. She is the content creator and marketeer, coach, and founder of Kahill Insights Company, a digital marketing boutique that specializes in creating engaging and interactive content items for digital platforms with a focus on return on investment, located in Kampala, Uganda. With a digital marketing certificate from Adweek Institution, Patricia is pursuing a certificate from the Content Marketing Institute Online, a fellow at Harvest Institute School of Leadership, class of 2021, and alumni of Leo Institute Young Emerging Leader Program, class of 2017, a multi-potentialite woman driven by passion and curiosity. Patricia has an ambition of stamping her footprint on the world.
Thank
you,
you,
Patricia. Thank you, dear. I hope I introduced you well. I hope I introduced you well.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Thank
Hello,
you,
everyone. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, I need to stop someone, then I can share mine. Okay, here we go. Okay, can we see that?
Yes, it's loading. It's loading.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it now.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to present about the cons and pros of social media, and my case example is going to be COVID-19, which is a recent pandemic that we have all faced. As humans of this race, currently this is the first pandemic we have faced as a digital age. So we're physically connected by everyone. We travel was the biggest connector for all of us, but now the internet has become the biggest tool for connection. It utilizes responsibility and mitigates its effects on everyone. So what are the cons? I'm going to begin with the pros. And one of the pros for digital marketing during this pandemic, it made it easier for dissemination of factual and timely information when it was necessarily needed. This made it easier for the world to know where not to go, where not to, who and which areas to run away from and not to get involved in. It also made it easier for the public to facilitate peer-to-peer communication, create situational awareness, monitor and respond to rumors where they were, then public reactions and concerns. Facilitated local level responses. In this case, we would see that people were communicating and telling themselves, this place, this hospital has the needed oxygen material, oxygen equipment. This is in a case of Uganda where we had faced a scarcity of oxygen for patients who are faced with COVID. So social media became the runway place to get either people facilitating, collecting money to facilitate medications with people who are suffering, or to even identify hospitals that had the necessary medication facilities. Then it allowed awareness, allowed maintenance of social proximity without physical proximity. Because in Uganda, we got really locked down to an extent that also the internet got switched off, because during the pandemic, we also faced with, we were also going through the election season. So in both ways, we got the internet got switched off for most of us. But the interesting part is we thank God for VPN. We are able now to connect with Facebook, which is still removed during this season. So social media makes it easier for us to communicate, maintain our social proximity with people, even if we can't see them, and also made it easy during the COVID period when people had to communicate with their loved ones, share information, follow up on who and how everyone is working. Then the last one would be on our pros would be the facilitated organizations to structure support groups that care for vulnerable people in their communities. This is mainly in regard to my church. My church is Worship Harvest, as you've read in my bio. And in Worship Harvest, we were able to come up with response packages for people who were faced with lack of food during the lockdown because they couldn't go or buy or didn't have money to buy because the shops were locked down, scarcity of money. So we organized support groups where we collected money as a church and then facilitated people with foodstuffs. But this was all mainly done on WhatsApp. So in your community, you would organize and see, you'd walk around and see which homesteads were faced with scarcity of food. And then you'd WhatsApp back into the church community and let them know. And then they send the food that's needed for those communities. The cons, which I would say the biggest one is infodemic, which has been around since before the pandemic. Infodemic is mainly in line with false information, where people are sharing information that is not connected to what is actually happening. They're just amplifying the noise and making it look like, making what is on ground, not the same on what is online. So in there, it caused the increase of stress, anxiety, worry levels in consumers of goods, and also people who are trying to figure out what is happening in other places that weren't connected. Healthy anxiety is that that social media caused, that exposed people to more unnecessary distresses, that got them to get sick, what I would call actual need, which is not the actual need. So places were recognized to be having more infections when actually it was not the truth. And resources, some of the resources would be taken there, but they weren't needed in those areas. So the misrepresentation of happenings, I'll give an example with the USA, where they say toilet paper and toilet scarcity, toilet paper scarcity in the USA, where people amplified that noise when actually it wasn't necessary, led to the actual scarcity of product in places like that. That is all infodemic. And that when I think it's still even going through right now, where we have misinformation that is going on, and this is amplified by social media. So in a nutshell, I would say that no matter how the cons and the pros work together, social media is not going anywhere. It's something that we the users, because social media is an enabler, we the users have to come up with ways to share the right information, fact check what is being shared, and not spread rumors or false information before we clarify about it, because then it causes more distresses in people and anxieties. Back to you, Oman.
Thank you, Patricia, for the presentation. Actually, you've shedded a lot of interesting points. Of course, I think some of the points that you mentioned varies from a country to the other, or do you think it's global in Africa?
I think it's global in Africa, mainly the infodemic, because information, most people just share out of, I would say, malice, or out of their own anxiety and want to add people into the anxiety scale. Other people just don't want to clarify what they're sharing. So, or because of scarcity of factual information, the people who have the factual information are not also sharing it. So people end up creating their own information and share it around. So I think it's an African problem. It can't be really a Ugandan problem, because we are all using social media platforms. And these are elements that happen on social media.
Actually, the point that you just mentioned about privacy and the hacking problem is one of the questions that a lot of our audience has asked, and we're going to have an answer for it at the end of our webinar. So thank you very much. Thank you extremely much. Back to Mrs. Janet Maloka. As we all know, that social media came with a very important feature, which is the bloggers and influencers who are now taking a lot of money in order just to come and market for your products. Some of these bloggers, they don't have any other job or any other background than just having fans or being able to collect fans. Do you think that people using bloggers and influencers, is this tool really good for the entrepreneurs? It really sums up in a good benefit for raising funds for or raising money for the profit of the company or the entrepreneurial business, or is it overrated? Ms. Maloka, you're unmuted. You're muted. Can you please unmute? It seems there's a problem in connection. And this is one of the bad sides of social media in Africa, because the internet connection in all Africa is not that good. I think we lost her. So I'm sure she's going to reconnect. So Truman, before we start, can we before we answer, until we get here she is. We got you back. So yes?
Yes. Sorry about that. I just lost sound.
Yeah.
Okay. So before I explain to you whether bloggers and influencers are imperative for social media, let me just break down the types of influencers there are. So there's a bit of a discrepancy, because some say that there are 6, others say there are 10, 11, 12. However, we'll just be focusing on the 5 types. The 5 types of influencers that you need to know are the mega influencers with more than 1 million followers. So those are your celebrities. There are macro influencers with 500K to 1 million followers. Mid-tier influencers with 50K to 500 followers. Micro influencers with 10K to 50K followers. And then there are the nano influencers with 1K to 10K followers. Influencer marketing is increasingly more popular amongst businesses these days, because traditional advertising has become less effective in attracting leads and customers. Influencer marketing works because it uses tactics like word of mouth and social proof, which are now critical aspects of any successful marketing strategy. Customers trust their peers and friends and people they admire more than the companies selling the products and services they buy and use. There are some stats that I will be sharing with you around the effectiveness of influencer marketing. These are not Africa-based, however, they do reflect the impact that influencer marketing does have. According to HubSpot.com, 80% of marketers say influencer marketing is effective, and 89% say it works just as well, if not better, than other marketing channels. 71% of marketers say that the quality of customers and traffic from influencer marketing is better than other sources. Influencer marketing strategies focused on branding or engagements generate 8 times return on investment. The top 3 goals of influencer marketing for businesses include increasing brand awareness, which is 85%, reaching new audiences, 71%, and generating sales and conversions, 64%. 49% of consumers today depend on influencer recommendations for their purchase decisions. 60% say they've been influenced by a recommendation when shopping in store. InfluencerMarketingHub.com did a report stating that at the start of 2021, influencer marketing was expected to grow to be worth $13.8 billion. And in 2020, the market size was sitting at $9.7 billion. 72% believe that the quality of customers from influencer marketing campaigns is better than other marketing types. You get a better engagement rate for micro-influencers than the superstars of social media. Now, this makes sense because mega influencers tend to have a lot of followers and often don't have the time or don't even really want to engage with their followers or even follow back. So it tends to sort of feel like the campaigns that they work on can sort of feel a little bit alienating. At the same time, the more super star or super mega influencers are always working on different campaigns all the time. Like, and it's a, you know, the turnaround time is very quick. So you'll find that one day they're talking about this product and then they're talking about a next product, and it becomes a little bit difficult to be like, okay, so this, where's your brand loyalty? Whereas with micro-influencers, it feels like a community. You'll find that these micro-influencers are most likely to engage with you. They will follow back and they'll feel like more of a friend. So it feels a lot more authentic as opposed to what happens with the former. Despite there being concerns that COVID would cut the influencer campaigns, affluence data suggests that only happened in the short term. Google searches for influencer marketing grew 1,500% in the last 3 years. So I also understand why this is, because when you look at trend reports every year, you find that influencer marketing seems to stay as one of the trends that will always be in the social media marketing space. Year on year, you find that they always say that you need to use influencers for your content, because they know that it generates the kind of return on investment that the traditional media doesn't do. So you know that when you go that route, you'll always go a really good route. Unfortunately, social media influencers can be quite pricey, but at the same time, so depending on the kind of business that you have or the kind of money that you have, there are also moments where you can negotiate and are able to do, instead of a proper physical payment, maybe you do a sort of a product exchange or some sort of a benefit that also, you know, benefits them at the same time as it benefits you. So yes, social media influencers seem to be very effective, and they seem to be on the rise, and they seem to continue to be one of the most effective forms of marketing. I can't say that this could be something that will go on and on and on and on for years, because, you know, the social media landscape does change on a regular basis, and that's why we always have to keep you know, looking and searching and doing our research, because things change like tomorrow. So at any given point, I mean, we might find that influencers aren't even important anymore and something else has come into the social media space. But for now, take advantage of using influencers and their influence on your products.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet, for the answer. But do you think that once you decide to use bloggers or influencers, you have to do your homework in order to see which influencer really is suitable for your kind of product or has the right audience for you? So how can you choose the right blogger and influencer? Because actually they take a lot of money. So you have to know that this money is well spent.
Yes, so that's the thing that we found a lot of the times in agencies where, agencies and companies just tend to use whoever because they gravitate to those people, possibly because of their large following or whatever it is. But you see, that's where being able to do your research comes in and deciding which brand or which influencer will best suit your brand. Because what sometimes happens is that you'll find that there's a mismatch in the influencer and the company, or in the influencer and the brand. That so for instance, there was there was an ad that happened with somebody who was a fitness bunny, and then they used a chocolate bar as a 24-hour like keeping you up and running all the time, which doesn't match, because why would a fitness bunny eating chocolate to stay, to have energy? So that's where you need to decide and figure out, how does this work? Will people be able to really look at this influencer and say, yes, this influencer is absolutely the one who is correct for this particular brand? So you do have to do a lot of research. You have to do your due diligence. You have to make sure that you're getting the best buck for your money, because at the end of the day, you only get one shot. And if your campaign flops, that's a lot of money that goes down the drain.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, this is a huge problem that all entrepreneurs face is whether first the decision whether to use bloggers and influencers or not. And then when they decide to use it, they have to choose the right ones, as you said, because choosing the wrong one can deliver the wrong message, and it could be harming your product instead of being useful for it. So thank you very much, Ms. Janet. Now, Mr. Saul Molobi from South Africa also will answer a very important question about the strategy that we have to use in social media at the time of pandemic. Mr. Saul Molobi is touted as one of the foremost thought leaders on competitive identity and public diplomacy, with over 30 years experience in global marketing, destination marketing, and investment promotion and trade facilitation. He's professional in international relations, a former South Africa's Consul General to Milan, Italy. His highest qualifications are an MSc and Masters in Global Marketing from the University of Liverpool and Masters in Dramatic Art from the University of the Witwatersrand. In 2020, he was nominated as the World CEO of the Year by the World CEO Rankings Board, and this year the World Brand Congress bestowed upon Brand Hill Africa the Best Brand Award as the Brand Leadership Award 2021. Mr. Saul? I think we lost Mr. Saul also. So until we have Mr. Saul again, Truman, can you please answer this question, because a lot of our attendees has asked it. The problem in Africa, not just in Africa, I think it's a global, worldwide problem, that once you're on social media, you're exposed with all your personal infos, and you're exposed to hacking, and these infos, your personal infos, are allowed to hacking. So do you think this is a problem, and how can we avoid this, if it's avoidable? I don't think if it's avoidable or not.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, actually. So look, from my experience and what I've seen, I know for a fact that in terms of the website, there's a way that you can, safeguard or secure your web using, some plugins that would actually allow you or enable you to prevent hackers, at the very least. So from that perspective, and then going to the e-commerce platforms, your online stores, you really need to tread carefully and make sure that you are using, a kind of platform that is secured in terms of receiving, money and transacting online. And Facebook, for a fact, I know there's a way that you can verify your page so that, and again, it's not foolproof. It's not to say that it won't be hacked, but at the very least, people are able to see whether this is your official page or not, company and individuals. So there's a way that you can verify your page so that people are able to see whether this is an authentic page or a fake page. But like you rightly said, Omnia, I think it's one of the things that is still in the process. I think there's a lot of work that's still that is still in the pipeline to make sure that these platforms are secured. But then again, like any kind of technology and the platforms, technological platforms, you keep innovating, you keep improving to a point where it could be 100% secured. But at the moment, there is no tools or plugins that I'm familiar with, especially for the social media platforms, that would also help you to protect your brand, to protect your company pages from being hacked by the hackers. So I would leave it at that for now. Omnia, I think maybe my fellow panelists can also add to the discussion. It's not my forte, I must say, in terms of hacking and things like that. All that I know is the websites and Facebook. There is a way that you can sort of secure your page.
No, actually, I don't think. No, actually, I don't think the attendees they mentioned they meant hacking by hacking. No, I meant, for example, sometimes you're sitting with your friends and you're talking about your for example, that you want to buy a jacket, and then suddenly next day you find a lot of advertisements coming to your mobile about brands of different jackets. So this is, of course, something that you get amazed. How did they know that I want to buy a jacket, for example, or something like that? So this is a marketing tool that you get from social media. Of course, it's defeating your privacy, and it's coming to your privacy and endangering it.
Absolutely. Well, now I think that makes so much sense. Thank you for that. So there's also what they call Google My Business. So in terms of Google Analytics, so everything and anything that you search for on Google, Google collects the information and they're able to sort of, have targeted ads for you specifically. Looking at the pattern, your search pattern and the things that you've been searching for, browsing on the internet. So if you are always, looking for cell phones, or in that example, again, a jacket, maybe always shopping online, looking for clothing brands and things like that, they'll be able to have ads that are targeted specifically for you. So it's not hacking, it's just, marketing intelligence. They use tools that will then help their customers, because Google, more than anything, they are a marketing, agency. So yes, we know it as a search engine, but in terms of what they do, they get their revenue from, marketing, from running ads by different companies, different individuals. So that kind of data is what they use, which is why it becomes very imperative, even for businesses, small businesses and big businesses, to also understand the issues of, data science, data analytics, so that they're able to have strategies in place to leverage on, whatever data that they are working with from their customers, so that they're able to inform their digital marketing strategy and be able to drive, whatever objective it could be in terms of, increasing brand awareness. It could be profit related. So again, it's all linked to data. So it's not hacking per se, but it's just using the kind of data that they see that is linked to your profile as a user on the internet. the type of things that you search for normally and the type of pages, platforms that you use, and they're able to target those platforms. And, you know, to give you an example, like you said, again, I might be on Facebook, you know, maybe running, you know, whatever campaign, or maybe I'm just checking, you know, updating myself, what my colleagues are doing or my friends on Facebook. And then suddenly I see an ad popping up talking about entrepreneurship, you know, because they know that's something, it's a subject that I'm always, you know, following and interested in contributing. Then I'll be able to then, you know, perhaps follow that advert and, you know, do whatever it is that they want me to do. So there'll be a call to action. So that would be the intention, really, to make sure that they capture your attention wherever you go. So, which is why it becomes very critical. There's also something called cookies. So even in terms of the website, you visit a website and then you see that it has cookies, and there will be a message that pops up saying that you need to, you know, allow those cookies. So the moment you do that, they get access to your profile. They are able to collect data, your email address, phone number, your location, which country you are based in, which city, what you do, where you do your shopping, and all of those things could be used to run targeted marketing campaigns or adverts.
Yes, because actually it's a problem. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who decided, no, I'm not going to put my business on Facebook or on any social media because I don't want all my personal information to be to be hacked by all these social media, and then. Of course, they found that they cannot avoid being on social media because, as we said, social media is a very important tool for marketing. And if you avoid it, you're going to miss a lot and you're going to be behind track. So you have to avoid, you cannot avoid the unavoidable, you know, as they say it. I think we have Saul again. Saul, can you please, I already introduced you, so can you please start? Saul, if all our esteemed panel speakers allow me, I would like you to write 2 points, for example, because as you know, the EABA, the Egyptian African Business Association, we are very much interested in connecting all Africa together, in creating one business community between all African countries. And we're not just about doing a webinar for the sake of webinars. No, we want to have some recommendations on how can we take the second step. How can we take this webinar further? Now we talked about the pros and cons of social media. How can we use social media in order to connect the African countries together and to create an African market that is really working as an African market and not like the one we have now? Of course, we have a lot of agreements like the COMESA, like a lot of agreements, but sometimes the small entrepreneurs, they don't get use of such agreements. And of course, they can use more the social media in order to find suitable markets in other countries. Maybe your product is very good, but it's not suitable for your own country, and it can be sold in other countries for better money or better worth. So I'd be appreciating if all the panelists can have 2 points or something in order to do that as recommendations on how can we take the webinar further for a better Africa. Because actually we in EABA, we are very interested in that. And we have many partners in many African countries in order to make a network together and to work together and to take benefits from each other. For example, if we can give you technical support, we are very happy to do that. If you can give us better technical support in anything, we are very happy to receive that. So I'd be very happy if you can help us do that recommendations. Okay, at the end of the webinar. I think we lost Saul again. He just kept messaging me that he's yes, Saul. Saul, can you please talk about your point? Saul. I cannot see him, although he says that he's with us, but I cannot see him at all. I don't know where he is. Okay. I'll give him a minute, and then we have to take the other point. So Saul, the point that Saul had to talk about is the strategy of social media. Yes.
Excuse me, Oman. Saul is in the participants. He has risen up his hand. He's in the participants.
Yes, I cannot see him. Why?
Okay. He's in the participants. He's right there. He has risen his hand.
If he's in the participant, then he cannot talk. Why is he in the participants?
You can put him in. You need to put him in the panel list.
Yes. Here he is. No, I can't put him. I don't know how. I can't put him. Well, I'm not able to put him. Yeah.
Are you the host of the webinar?
Yes. No, the Iaba.
Then the Iaba needs to add him. The host needs to add him as either speaker or
Yeah. Okay. Can we proceed? Can we proceed with the points that we were talking about until we are able to get Saul with us, please? So Patricia, can you proceed if you have some suggestions about what we can do for enabling the social media between the African countries and not just in our country where we have our business?
I think I'll give an example. If we have businesses that in WAB that need help on some of the things that can be done by either the presenters or the other businesses that are represented on here, it would be nice if such needs are documented and maybe shared with the African continent, either us, the panelists, or everyone who is on here, the participants. And then we see if someone can help either give a fair pricing or give better advice on the needs of that business in the different African countries. So as right now we have 40 participants on this webinar, if all of us had a need for another person's business on here, we could really share and see if someone can be able to help out. And that's what I think.
And how can we create such a network?
I think that such a network would come through if first we all get into, I would say, a group, a collective group, or an emailing group where we share who we are and keep this conversation going from there, and what we do and what needs we might need from the different countries and the companies that are in there. Then it will become easier for us to create the relationships that need then to continue and build the business relationships. Because you can't trade with someone you don't really know, as social media does. So you can't be friends with someone you don't know. So you start by creating a relationship with everyone here. Now that I'm creating one with you, Oman, it becomes easier for me now to refer you, or you to refer me to some other places. Now that I know Janat and I know Hadebe now, it's easier for me to reach out and ask questions about their own different countries and what is going on. And if I have a business that I think is suitable for that country and I need a partner, now it's easier for me to just reach out to Janat or Maheb and just speak out. But if you also do that connection and create what would be a Google group where we can all share ideas and questions or views on different grounds as we create these relationships, then it becomes easier to continue this conversation that way.
Thank you, Patricia. We managed to get Saul back. So I think we'll go to Saul and then we will continue the points for creating better networking in between Africa. Saul? Saul, please. You're now among.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, welcome. We've been waiting for you.
Okay.
And now you have a very important topic to share with us about the strategy of social media.
Okay. Thank you so much. The good thing about being the last speaker, even though unfortunately I'm standing between you and Dina, is that I'm just going to summarize everything that all the speakers have spoken, because all of you have spoken to what we call a strategy. Perhaps I should start by saying that my topic, and for that reason, I'm not even going to share with you my presentation, but I'll send it to the organizers and they can share it with those who are interested. But basically, my topic is titled "Graven Thee Upon the Palm of My Hand." It's a biblical quotation from Isaiah 49, verse 16. But for me, it speaks to the centrality of cell phone technology today, that in fact, the palm readers no longer have any work to do because the cell phones serve as our palm readers. In fact, if you don't have a cell phone in your hand, you do feel incomplete. It's like you are missing one part of your arm. And I'll take you to, because we are talking mobile technology, I'll take you to what Steve Jobs, one of the co-founders of Apple, has said. He said, "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They are not fond of rules." So basically, for any innovation to happen, one has to break the rule. But I remember a pop song some years ago used to say, before you break the rules, you've got to know them. So basically, this is where the issue of strategy comes in. And Steve Jobs says, this kind of people, they change things, they push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see them as genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to change the world are the ones who will actually change this world. And since we are talking to our Egyptian organizers, one of my most favorite authors is the late Nawal Elsharkawi, who passed on in March this year. In 1990, we organized a writers' conference in South Africa, and she was one of our keynote speakers. As a young journalist, I attended that conference, and she said to us, creativity starts with disobedience. So basically, she spoke to what later on Steve Jobs defined as the crazy ones. But also Thomas Sankara. Sankara was the post-independence president of Burkina Faso. He spoke about paying tribute to the madmen of yesterday who have made it possible for us as a continent to be where we are today. And right now, if we are looking at the developments within the integration initiative of the continent, one will go back to 1906 when Pixley Kahill, a South African at a university in the UK, gave a speech, and he spoke about the regeneration of Africa in response to colonialism, which was imposed upon us by the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885. And you fast track that to 1963 on the 24th of May, when Kwame Nkrumah spoke about the integration of Africa, spoke about one continental economy, spoke about a continental currency. And it is for that reason that today we have the Secretariat for the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement being headquartered in Ghana. This is a tribute to him. One of my special friends who is a guest here, Lizel Timol, is a soccer writer. She follows Liverpool. And for that reason, in trying to impress her, I decided to quote one of our soccer supremos in South Africa, Evan the Ainjuk Khoza, who in 2006, at the burial of her daughter, who happened to be the brand manager of Orlando Pirates, one of our premier soccer teams in the country. He said, I quote him, "The quickest way to kill a brand is to communicate something that falls short of the brand promise." So I'm trying to answer the question, so what? Yes, we have spoken about social media. Perhaps I must also emphasize the marketing strategy doesn't change. The architecture of a marketing strategy doesn't change, which means what people say is traditional marketing. Whether it's traditional or contemporary, the reality is that marketing as a science, the architecture remains the same. But what changes is the marketing mix. So meaning that marketing remains as marketing, as an art, at the same time as a science. But social media or all the delivery platforms of your marketing thought then will change and they will advance with technology. So that is why even today, when we talk about social media, we are not necessarily revising marketing principles. The marketing principles remain the same. And if I'm going to summarize what everybody has spoken, because then I have to be speaking to strategy. In fact, you have already given the meat into this strategic architecture that I'm talking about. The standard one, you have to do your market research, and people put it into an acronym called PESGEL. You look at political, economic, social, technological, geographic, environmental, especially right now when ESG becomes a strategic imperative. And then from there, you'll also look at the legal and the regulatory framework. And then from there, you look at how you segment your market, and all of you have spoken to that, especially if you look at internet penetration amongst all the market segments that we could be targeting with our various product and service offerings. And from there, then you will look at how do you target that specific market, and also how you develop your own positioning statement. And with the marketing mix, I know now it has increased from your traditional 4P to 7P. That also includes your people and your physical evidence. But basically then that's where we are looking at the dynamism of delivery platforms. That these platforms, especially those that are linked to technology, will always evolve and will always appeal to your various segments. The issue of the crazy ones, for me, it should speak to the personality of your brand. In fact, Harvard Business Review in 2018 published a detailed study on these crazy people that Steve Jobs spoke about, on the madmen that Thomas Sankara spoke about, or on the disobedient that Nawal El-Saadawi spoke about. And ultimately then they dubbed them the rebel talent. And they indicated that for every innovation to happen in each and every institution, there has to be someone referred to them as the dreamers or the visionaries. And then they also came up with the format that any body of an institution should take. And someone said perhaps even a diamond could work, because you can't have a company or an institution which has employed all the dreamers, because the dreamers are very good in terms of generating visions, but they lack implementation capacity, because whilst they are trying to implement, already they are thinking about another vision or another idea that they could be exploring. And then the middle ones in this body of a diamond, then are the good jobbers. Yeah, people who just come in at 8:30, they do their work and they do it very well. And at 4:30, they knock off, they go home. Those are your good jobbers who are driving operational excellence in your company. And the last bit, which should constitute 10%, the turn-uppers, people who just turn up at work to do the bare minimum. They earn their salary. They don't give a damn about what is happening in the company, whether it's growing or it's not growing. If you look at the perceptions of the public service system, I would say that to a large extent, the misperception is that all public servants fall within the 10% category. And unfortunately, then the misperception will say the 80% which is supposed to be the good jobbers in the public service are your turn-uppers. And that's why then we always have service delivery backlogs all over. I'm now just summarizing the key principle, especially when you are utilizing social media, is that your messaging should be very direct. And I'm going to quote from a Mozambican poet, George Rebelo, who has some beautiful lines that I love. He says, "Forge simple words which even the children can understand, words which will enter every house like the wind and fall like red hot embers on our people's souls." So the perfect messaging is the one that not only talks to people's minds, but it also speaks to their souls, so that ultimately they develop emotional attachment to what you will be communicating to them.
Okay, and how,
one,
and Saul, if I
media
may just
checklist.
ask you a question.
Okay.
How can we use the strategies that you talk about thinking out of the box and rebelling to all the systems that we have now in order to accommodate with the current situations? How can we use that in order to create an inter-African business success between African countries, not just in my company or your company, but between our countries globally or African?
Okay. Unfortunately, the integration project is driven by governments through the African Union. And I was quite comfortable when, after establishing the Secretariat, they divorced it from the African Union.
No, but if we left the government issue aside and we talked about us as people,
yes,
as individuals.
Yes, I'm coming to that.
Yes.
Yes, I'm
but
coming to that.
actually, I'm afraid that we don't have a lot of time. That's why I'm asking
Okay.
about this point in precise.
Yeah, basically, this is what the African Business Council,
Yes.
which is a federation of the national chambers on the continent, will be looking at. Because in terms of developing policy instruments, it is government that are driving that through the African Union. But the implementation has to be undertaken by the private sector. And this is where the question of rising against the status quo comes in, that we need to defy the parameters that are imposed on us by the policymakers. Because with us, it isn't just a matter of theory, but it will be the kind of theory derived from our daily experiences. Practice ultimately has to inform the kind of policies that the policymakers have to develop.
So if I may sum up the points that you said, and Patricia and Truman and Nagla and Ms. Janet, I think the points are that we have to work on acquisition between African companies and merging between African companies in order to create an intra-African business. And we have to, like Patricia said, we have to have social bonds between us. You cannot do business with me if you don't know me. So we have to know, if I understood that right from Patricia, we have to get to know each other before doing business. And this is the role of social media. Now we are meeting, although you're in South Africa and I'm in Alexandria. Okay, so it made that easier. And Truman, of course, said that the supply chain concept in social media can connect people from all around the world together. So if I understood that right from you, Truman. So I think at the end of the conference, we have to create a platform. And this must be the second step, that we create an inter-African platform in order to get us together for the business sake. I'd like to thank you all for your highly appreciated contribution in our webinar. And I'm sure this is not the last time we're going to meet. We're going to have steps forward for this webinar, and we're going to speak together. Truman, do you have other points that you want to talk about, you said?
Yeah, well, no, just to I was actually referring to the AVE Connect program. So for those that are interested on digital transformation and e-commerce type of platforms, so we've got a breed of young people, young professionals, unemployed graduates that are working on various projects to bring SMEs up to that level where they can.
Please, I would like you to share. I would like you to share the links. The proper links for that project, not just during the webinar, but on our page of IABA, okay? Because we can yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
another platform, I've also shared the link in terms of the smart trade, the e-commerce platform that is specifically dedicated to Africa. It's currently, the office or the headquarters are in Rwanda. So they can check it out as well. I'll include that on the links that I'm going to be sharing on the page.
Thank you, dear. I would like at the end to thank Ms.Nagla.
Omnia, there's another link for those that are interested now in terms of entrepreneurship development, to take on various programs. I've also shared a link. There's a free platform for entrepreneurship development program that they can connect to. It's on Google Classroom. So there's a whole host of entrepreneurs and, including anyone really, even if you don't have a business, but you're interested in learning.
Yes, please,
and,
please share.
In terms of how to get started.
Please share.
Just a quick one, in line with the commercial break that Truman is giving us. I publish a weekly news portal called Jambo Africa Online. It's on www.jamboafrica.online. Please visit it, and we even have WhatsApp groups. We engage with entrepreneurs from all over the continent. And we are also in the process of establishing a structured CEO engagement mechanism. Right now, we have 24 CEOs of economic development agencies from across the continent. So I will share the links, but you'll also get the information on jamboafrica.online.
Thank you, Mr. Saul. I would like to thank all my panelists. I would like to thank Ms.Nagla Akl from Egypt and Ms. Janet Maloka from South Africa, Ms. Patricia Kahill from Uganda, Mr. Saul Molobi, and Mr. Truman from South Africa. Thank you all, and I hope you had a very nice webinar. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you.